Yes, welcome to a brand new episode of IDTALK4ED Live, the show for the unsung heroes of education. I'm your host, Kwame Sarfo-Mensah, and if this is your first time tuning in to the podcast, I welcome you and I hope that you return for future episodes, especially after this one. And if you're a returning listener or viewer of the podcast, as always, I welcome you back and I hope that today's episode is one that you find informative, enlightening, and as always, insightful. So before we get to the main event, as always, I like to remind my faithful subscribers to continue to check out the podcast. But if you're someone who's new and you've been watching a few episodes, make sure you hit that red subscribe button so you can get future notifications on new episodes. Also, I've been getting lots of questions about how people can contribute financially to this platform and its growth. You can do that through two platforms. I have an account through WhatsApp using the handle #IDTALK4ED, or you can donate through Venmo with the handle @Kwame SM. That's @KWAMESM. And then if you are looking to catch past episodes of the podcast and catch up on what we've been doing the past few years, you can go to our main website at IDTALK4EDucators.com. Thank you so much. So we're winding down the year, and today's guest is someone who I actually know. Usually when I bring people on, I meet them for the first time and really getting to know them just through the conversation. But this is probably one of the rare times where I'm bringing on a guest who I actually know personally. So today's guest is someone who you could say I came into this education game with, someone who I went to college with, someone who I've had a chance from afar to see grow into just a dope educational leader. And I'm just excited to have her on to just share her story and what she's doing now in this principal life that she's in. So yeah, I'm just excited for this episode. All right, y'all. So without further ado, I want to bring on Ashley Moore to the podcast to talk to us about life as a principal, but also the journey that brought her to this moment. So I'm going to bring Ashley on and we're going to get this conversation going. Ashley.
Hi, how are you?
What's good? How you feel?
Good. Just finished my last day. Now I'm on winter break, Christmas break, holiday break, whatever break you want to call it. I'm on break, so I'm happy.
So do principals actually get breaks?
So that's a good question.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't. It all depends on the district and if they treat building administrators like central office staff. Unfortunately, here in my district, they don't. Like if you work in a building, you follow the building schedule. I did work in a district where I used to have to take my sick leave to get a break. Like I had to take like my vacation and my sick leave as an administrator to get a break. But this district, no. I don't have to do that. And if I do work over the break, I usually have like a work day as like a day to just get everything that I absolutely must get done so that I can relax during the break, disconnect, spend time with my family, and then I can just pick up where I need to when I come back. So tomorrow is that day. There's a few things I just got to get done just to be comfortable with, being away for a while.
I mean, that's always the case. I guess
Yeah.
Life of a principal, huh?
Yep.
It's always something to do. But look, Ashley, first off, it's been a minute, so I'm glad that we got a chance to catch up a little bit. We already know that Pittsburgh's in the building.
That's so funny. People don't even call out I'm from Pittsburgh anymore. People say either I'm from Philly or I'm from Baltimore now. It's really strange, but
it's weird. But so now, since you've been in Baltimore all this time,
yeah,
you like a Ravens fan or you still a Steelers fan?
See, because of the rivalry, I'm not allowed. Otherwise, my family back home will disown me. I'm not allowed.
There you go. Keep it diplomatic.
Yeah.
I like that. All right. So before we get into present day stuff that you're doing, let's go back to the beginning. So
okay.
I know, growing up in Pittsburgh, had your family and you had a life before doing what you're doing now. So I'm interested in knowing from you who or what inspired you to want to become an educator in the first place.
So the who is Mr. Haywood. He was my 5th grade teacher, and he was so cool. So you talk about like cultural relevancy before it was cultural relevancy. Like He was teaching us through rap, through song. He was just like the coolest teacher ever. He was like the young teacher of the building. And so he came in and he used to he actually DJ'd our dances. Like he was just the coolest guy ever. I actually still keep in contact with him to this day, but he is one of the people that inspired me to become an educator. But it's so funny. I didn't realize I wanted to be a teacher until I actually got to college and I had to choose my actual major. So initially I thought I was going to school to be a school psychologist. I knew I wanted to work in a school, but I did not know in what capacity. And so at first I was like, oh, I want to be a school psychologist. And then I looked at how long I had to go to school to do that. And then I was like, I think I need to do something different. And then, I was like, okay, I'll go into the College of Education. So then even if I still want to be a school psychologist, I can still pursue that and just, go get, a post-secondary degree. Or an advanced degree or a master's degree or whatever the case may be. So, but once I got into education, that was pretty much it. So yeah, that's what inspired me, and that's part of my journey. Now, if you want to ask me about becoming a principal, that's not what I set out to be either. So
we'll save that for later. Save that for later. All right. So now, still staying in the past, right? We all went through our K-12 schooling.
Mm-hmm.
We may have had some ups and downs during that journey. So I'm wondering, in your case, as you were going through your schooling, were there any struggles that you had in terms of embracing who you were and being able to be yourself while you were in school?
I don't know about being myself. So I will say I was fortunate enough to have a elementary school experience where I had all of my teachers were Black, which is really unique. But all of my teachers were Black. And I could vividly remember them. So when I went to middle school and high school, that was the first time I had ever experienced anybody that did not look like me. So I had already had the experience of, being affirmed and being myself, being who I am. At the same time, learning that there's a certain way that you have to navigate things in order to be liked or to be accepted. So, learning about code switching and learning how to code switch, learning even what code switching is, or that's a thing that we even do. That is something that those are things that I had to learn coming in, because I used to, say and do what I wanted to do. And some people are like, oh, you can't do that. You can't speak up. You can't do this. And I'm like, well, why not? I'm a person just like everybody else. And so, yeah, so learning, how to navigate some politics and things like that, mostly at high school. I was the young lady that would go to the principal's office and, ask to speak to the principal about policies and things that didn't make sense and things that should change, because it just, these things shouldn't be in place or they're not fair for certain groups of people. Like something as simple as hair. On our prom day, for prom, we get our hair done day, then we couldn't, go to prom. And I was like, well, I'm a Black girl. And so I had to sit in the principal's office and explain to him what that meant. And that meant I could not come to school that day because I had to go get my hair done. And I advocated for all the other Black girls in my class because they were afraid to say something and I wasn't. And I was like, well, he's going to have to hear this out because we got to go get our hair done. And the thing is that some of us went to the same hairdresser. So, he didn't understand. He's like, well, if you all go to the same hairdresser, how's she doing all your hair at the same time? Literally asking me that. And I'm like, well, one person's getting washed, one person's getting this, one person's under the dryer. I'm explaining him the process of a Black woman getting her hair done in the salon as a teenager. But I was that person. They will always say, Ashley, we want to do this. Go tell the principal this. Go ask to go speak to them. They're putting me up to it. But I was always professional, and I always asked nicely, and I used to present the fact. So I've always been a young advocate.
Yeah.
The beginning.
Wow. So of course, for the audience, right? Like I said in the beginning, Ashley and I, we went to college together at Temple.
Yes.
So shout out to Temple, go Owls. You and I met I had already finished.
Yeah.
And I think you were finishing up because you
Yep.
were doing your student teaching. I was still trying to figure life out. Like, finish my 5 years at Temple. Yes, I did the 5-year plan, like most folks did.
Did we
And
all?
was dabbling into education. I didn't know
Mhm.
what I was going to do. I had a math degree, wasn't sure I was going to use it. So
Mhm.
I did education works. Ashley did education works as well as she was
Mhm.
finishing up her teacher certification. So I knew at that time, like you already knew you was going to be a teacher. You knew
Yeah.
that already. I was still trying to figure it out. And then you'd go on. I think you're doing special ed. I remember, right?
So I was duly certified
Yeah.
still, but yeah, duly certified special ed and elementary ed.
Right.
So yeah, my first job I actually taught 5th grade, but it may as well have been special ed because more than half of the kids in my class had IEPs.
Oh, like inclusion class, basically.
Inclusion.
Yeah.
They were just like the specialist in her room. That's literally how it went down. Like I think it was like 70% of my class had IEPs.
Oh wow. And it was just you
Yeah,
in the class? Just you,
me and
no
29 of my kids.
God bless you. God bless you.
I
Uh-uh.
know, like it was wild. It was very wild times.
Yeah, that's what's up. So I'm trying to think. Like I always felt like you had the leadership skills to be a principal, but I didn't think that was something you were aspiring to be.
Mm-mm.
So I'm trying to figure out when did you decide or start thinking about the possibility of becoming a principal and making that transition from being in the classroom to
Mm-hmm.
becoming that.
So when I moved from Philly to Maryland, I had just finished my master's degree, and so I went to St. Joe's for 2 years. And so when I went to St. Joe's, I was just getting a master's. I was thinking about just getting another master's of education or a master's with a special ed supervisor certification. And
Yeah.
so when I was talking to an advisor, they were like, "Well, if you just do this program, you can get your your SPED supervisor cert, curriculum instruction cert, and administrator cert. All you had to do was take like 2 or 3 extra classes." And I was like, okay, I'll do that. And then when I moved to Maryland, I moved to Maryland and I was just a inclusion teacher. Like a co-teacher. And so they didn't really expect me to do much, I guess. And so, there were times when we would I would co-teach with my co-teachers, and they couldn't tell who the actual classroom teacher was because we were both actively engaged in teaching. We actually would have people come and observe us to see good co-teaching going on. Like we were a model co-teaching group, like all of my co-teachers that I worked with. And then my special ed department chair, she said, she's like, sometimes like, you're kind of like above all of this stuff. Like, you don't like get involved in stuff. You kind of like, you always have like a very diplomatic approach to things. She's like, have you ever considered like school leadership? I was like, you want me to be in charge of other people? No, I have not. I've not thought of it. And so she was like, well, she's like, I think you've had like training or something. Like, didn't you take classes? I was like, yeah, I took classes. I was like, but I have no desire to do that. And so, she was like, you should request to get your your file reviewed and stuff like that to see if you're eligible for additional certifications. Because at the time, they had only transferred my current cert, which was the elementary and special ed cert. All the new credits in the degree that I had just acquired. Because I literally graduated and then for my master's program and then moved to Maryland. And so they did a review and then it came back that I had like 3 or 4 additional certs and one of them being admin 1. So I applied to be in the assistant principal. This is all my special ed DC. She was the one that was like kind of coaching and encouraging me to do it. And she would literally introduce me to people, like especially higher ups. She was like, hi, this is Ashley Moore. She's one of the future leaders in our county. Like she's going to be running things. And I'm just like, okay, that's enough. Like, I'm I don't know about all that. And so then I interviewed for a special ed DC position at my current school. And at that time I was being blackballed because I was the equity liaison. And my principal at the time did not like the fact that I was an equity liaison because I would challenge him on some of his practice. So because they had a SPAD position, a SPAD DC position, mind you, I had a certification as an administrator, special ed supervisor, meaning that I could work at the district level as a special ed supervisor.
Yes.
He told me that I was not qualified to be a building level department chair. Then he also told me that I was not qualified enough to be considered for their AP position they had there. So I said, oh, okay, see you later. Like, oh, all right, I'm not going to get anywhere here. So then I applied and interviewed for a SPED DC position in another school. And the two people that interviewed me was the director of special education and a regional assistant superintendent. And so, and the principal of that school. And so I did the interview, and the regional assistant superintendent told the principal, he was like, I need her in one of my buildings as an AP. She's like, she's qualified to be AP. She's in the AP pool. Why is she applying for SPED DC position? So he was like, I need her in one of my schools. So I hadn't gotten any AP interviews, none. And I mean, at this point, it's August of the upcoming school year. So I haven't gotten anything. All of a sudden, I have 3 interviews for AP positions for different schools, just like that. I interviewed he was so impressed with my special ed DC interview, he invited me to interview with his cluster as AP. I got a school. I did not start the school until September, like the 2nd or 3rd week of September of that school year. So I didn't get to do any pre-planning. I didn't get to do anything. I just came in and was baptized by the fire. I want to say by December, I was running the school.
What happened to the principal?
He didn't like confrontation. And so because he didn't like confrontation, he didn't like holding people accountable, people being parents, students, or teachers. So that was what was needed in order for the school to be successful, because we had kids, mind you, we had the highest performing in terms of academics in the whole county in our building. They were running amok, disrupting class. I mean, it was bedlam. And I came in and I said, absolutely not. This is not the learning environment that we want at this school. And so I shut it down. And so after my first year as an AP, I was invited to apply for the principal pool. And I was like, this is moving way too fast. I don't think I'm ready. And that was just me. I think that was like imposter syndrome really showing up. Like, I don't think I'm ready. But then I got pregnant with my twins. And so because I had gotten in the principal pool, and they were like, well, we want you to move forward and try to get, into a principalship. And I was like, that's too much. I'm going to be learning how to be a new mom and a principal at the same time. I don't think that's why. So I said, I'm going to continue to be an assistant principal because this is something I know how to do. And then, and learn how to be a mom. So then I had to kind of wait around for a principalship. Because what I realized is that I wanted to affect change on a larger scale for a whole building. And I could only do but so much as an AP. I could affect my departments. I could, affect change over the different, areas that I see. I had data points that had clearly moved since I had been in the position. And I was like, that means that I can create good outcomes for kids.
Right.
And so once I saw the job as that's what really changed it for me. And then that's when I started to actually pursue the principalship. Because before it was just like, okay, you're just in charge of everything. No, you literally have the power to make the best possible educational experience for the building that you lead. Therefore, not only affecting 30 kids who are in your classroom, you're multiplying that, and you're talking about, affecting change for 300 to 500 students. And so when I looked at the level of impact that I could have, moving people, both parents, students, teachers, and leading in the right direction, that's when I knew I was like, okay, yeah, this is something that I really want to do. But I had a lot of no's before I had a lot of yeses. And when I finally tried to go to be in the principalship in the county that I was in, they were not offering me a principalship. And so I was in a program I was in a program for aspiring principals. It was called Promising Principals. It was this really great program that was offered, and there are about 3 or 4 APs from every county in Maryland, and we would meet quarterly. And we would learn different things, from media training to budgeting, to leading in turbulence. It was just it was like the most fantastic training I ever had. And so we had a mentor and a coach. And so my mentor and coach said, I think I know a place where you would really thrive, and I think you should apply for this job. And I said, okay, well, let me see it. So, I came to the building, I came and I visited this place, and I was like, yeah, this is home. And I was like, it just feels right. It feels like home. So I pursued it, and then I got the job. And so I resigned from the county that I was in. And then that's when I get the phone calls and the emails. Why are you leaving? Oh my gosh, And then they said, oh, we have a school for you. And I was like, okay, what school is it? Kwame, they offered me an alternative school. I said, y'all crazy. I'm going.
That's too, you know what? That's too predictable.
Yes.
Like, got a black woman. Let's put the black woman in the alternative school.
Mm-hmm. So
staying on business.
So yeah. So but mind you, we had built programming while I was at my old school. We had built programming where students can have it was a dual program where high schoolers could graduate with both their associate's degree as well as their diploma. We were building like good programming, stuff like that. I was like, so you want to put this person who has strong instructional leadership, can, improve systems, take our special ed compliance from 5 to 100%. I'll move all these major data points, and you want to put me in an alternative school? And it was after I submitted my resignation. So I was just like, you know what? These are just the messages telling me that it's time to go. Mm-hmm. And so I've been at my lovely little school. I've been here for 7 years. I love it. It's been home for me. And now it not only has it been home for me, it's been home for my family, because my boys come to school with me too. Mm-hmm. So my boys are at school with me. They've been at the same school since pre-K. So they've been here for pre-K. They're now in 3rd grade. So, my husband is here all the time. Their grandparents are here all the time. So when I say it's home, it's really home. So yeah.
So you mentioned that when you first came to the school, mm-hmm. it was home for you. Mm-hmm. What about it made it feel like home?
It was just the feel. The teachers there, the teachers that I met, they were like really excited prospect of me coming there. Even some of the students, like the students that I interacted with, but what I really saw was I saw what the school could be. Mm-hmm. I didn't see it for what it was at face value, because the first question I asked my mentor when I toured the building with her, I was like, why is it not more than what it is now? And I was telling her all the things that I saw. And when I started, and at that point, that's when I really became a visionary, because mm-hmm. then I started seeing what things could be and not just what the way that they are. And it's really hard to be that. When things can be completely negative, you can really take that on, and then any type of optimism that somebody would have to be a visionary would diminish. So and that's when it really felt like home, because I said I want my kids to come here because I know that they'll learn, and I know that the teachers will take care of them. This feels like a place where and it wasn't like that when I first stepped into the building, mm-hmm. but I knew it could be that way. Yeah. All right, cool. So yeah, it was just a really deep feeling. It was just like my gut telling me it was like, yeah, this is it.
All right, cool. Mm-hmm. And just from watching afar, I could tell you're that type of principal that doesn't stay in the office all day. Like, you moving around, you going from classroom to classroom, and I only noticed because you stay with some J's on, some fresh J's on. You gotta be walking around if you got J's on all the time, But then I've had principals in my school where mm-hmm. they don't interact with the kids. They just literally delegating everything. They just stay in their office all day. And I'm just thinking to myself, that just doesn't seem normal. Now, I've never been a principal before. I've worked with many principals in the schools I've taught in. Mm-hmm. So would you say that there's different types of principals, the ones that I just mentioned, and then the ones that are more like you, who are more, I guess, interactive with students and are more involved with what goes on in the day to day that way?
Yeah, absolutely. There are definitely different types of principals, for sure. Like, but what I'm learning is that people, and I'm not saying like, I'm like this exemplar or this model leader to the point where people have to do what I do, but there aren't a lot of people that do what
Well, that's
or what
facts.
I know some other great leaders do. Like, you have to talk to the kids. You have to talk to the parents. You have to talk to the teachers. You have to know what's going on in your building. You have to know what's going on social media. And if you don't talk to the kids, you won't know. So, you just, because everything is information and all that
That's right.
information is data, and all that data uses you to help make decisions. So, you need that information, and you need to know who your kids are, how they learn, because then I can't hire people for my kids if I don't know who my kids are, who my families are, and who they need. So, you just lead different, knowing that, you need to know every single crack and crevice in how kids work and how your teachers work, in order to make the school as successful as possible. So principals are just sit in their office all day. I don't know. I don't know how anybody does that. Like, I don't understand office jobs at all. Like, they make no sense to me. I could never see myself in a situation where I'm sitting in an office all day, like just sitting at a desk, going to a water cooler every once in a while. I cannot fathom. I had an office job, I want to say, when I was 16, and I was like, it was the worst job I ever had in my life. I cannot see myself. You're right. I'm not in this office, but the kids are. Like, one old school principal, she came into my office one day, and she was like, kids are welcome here. She just looked around. She's like, I can see that kids are welcome in every part of your building and even your office. And it's true. Like, there's kids in here, and sometimes I'll come in and the kid will just be sitting there. They'll be quiet, they'll be in the dark, they'll be crying. I don't know. But they're not afraid to come in here, or they're not like, okay, the principal's office is not just a place where I'm in trouble. Now, most of the time it is,
Right.
but but it can be both things. It's not just a place where you get in trouble. But yeah, I don't understand how you can sit in your office all day and make sound decisions for your building that's going to make it successful.
All right, Ashley. So I got to ask you this question because I've had
Mhm.
a number of principals come on this podcast and share their experience on the job.
Mhm.
And this is I would say it's a somewhat controversial question, but I know it's a question that gets asked very often. So, in order to be a principal, right, do you believe that it should be a prerequisite to, be a classroom teacher before becoming a principal? And I'm only asking this because I feel like in recent years, there's been a lot of acceleration programs
Mhm.
that have caused some folks to jump some steps in the process to get to the principalship.
Mhm.
And don't get me wrong, there may be some people who end up being exemplary and do a great job when
Mhm.
it's all said and done. But I just wonder, how is it possible for a principal to get to that position that quickly if they haven't gone through a journey similar to the one you went through? Like, you start off in the
Mhm.
classroom, then you were AP for a number of years, still learning, right? And then you
Mhm.
eventually got your chance to be a principal. I'm just interested in hearing your thoughts on that in general.
So, yes, I think that it's absolutely necessary for principals to be teachers first. And I think that the reason why that is necessary, is because, one, you need just how, like, some people need street cred, you need teachers are not going to actually listen and take in the feedback that you give if they feel like you are not able to do what you're telling them.
Got those receipts.
You
Got them
got, yes,
receipts.
you have to have the credibility, you have to have the receipts,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
if I'm telling somebody they need to be running small groups, or they need to be engaging students in peer-to-peer interaction, or they need to be you need to be monitoring and giving feedback and then doing formative assessments throughout a lesson, and I can't tell them how to do that and what that looks like to a T, or I can't show them by modeling it, then you've lost credibility. Now, I will say, like you said, there are those rare exceptions where there are some people who really haven't had to teach. but they're great leaders. And I think it's because great leaders are emotionally intelligent.
Yes.
And they have empathy. And I think that that's all is being great in the classroom. Because, I saw a video where, a teacher said, well, 10 years before they become a principal because they need to know how to teach. Well, baby, there are people that could teach for 10 years and still be terrible teachers and still become a principal and still not know anything. So it has just teaching, like, check a box, has to be excellent teaching. But then not only that, can you teach somebody else how to teach? Or can you influence somebody else? And the only way you can do that is if you have emotional intelligence. So
yeah,
I think that those people who have where those rare occasions where you do have leaders who, who had not had that formal level of teaching experience, but they're really great leaders because, they understand people, they know how to manage people, but they're good at people and understanding them and being empathetic. I think that's what, that's where their strengths are, and that's what carries them. And so, and they also know how to delegate really well. But I feel like in order for you to lead and be in a building, you need to be an instructional leader. And I feel the only way you can be an instructional leader is if you've actually delivered high quality instruction yourself as a teacher. And even as an administrator, there are times where I have had to teach, especially last year. And then this teacher shortage, there are times where I have to plan lessons and, and deliver instruction. And it's a part of the job because at the end of the day, you want your kids to learn by any means necessary. So if that means that I have to put my teacher hat back on, that's what has to happen. So, but that's what gets the credibility from the teachers, is you need your teachers to be able to take that feedback and utilize it so that they can, continue to grow as well.
And I was going to ask that question, but I think you just answered it. I think with some principals, not all, but some principals, once they get into that principalship position and they're there for a while, they tend to forget the fact that they were once teachers. So going back to what you mentioned about emotional intelligence, I was going to ask you about that. Like, how do you stay humble and kind of remind yourself that you were once in your teacher's shoes at one time, and you just pretty much answered it with that, going into the classrooms and just putting that teacher hat back on.
Yeah. And even admit, like, there are times where I'll go in classrooms and there are things that our teachers are doing. And I'm like, wow, that's really fantastic. Can you teach us how you're doing that? Because I would like to learn it too. And I know there are some other people that may benefit from this because I think this is really fantastic. I think this is cool. And, that, like, teachers love that. Teachers love helping other people. We all do, that's kind of, we're in a helping field. So, they love helping other people. And they also love to know that what they're doing the right thing, because we're also extremely hard on ourselves, and extremely critical. So affirming that through, learning from them, and just letting them know that they're doing an excellent job. Because sometimes, administrators that come into a room and you think, oh God, they're going to find something wrong with what I'm doing, or no teacher is perfect, and I have to find something wrong with them. And I'm like, that's not how you create a psychologically safe environment for a teacher to feel comfortable enough to change their practice and feel like they can improve their practice. That's just one thing that because I learn from my teachers every day. There's different things that they do, and they're they use best practices or new practices. And then I'm going and I'm making notes of it. And then I'm saying, this teacher's doing something really great. This teacher's doing something, like, we can all learn from each other. So it's pretty dope. It's pretty dope.
That's what's up. And I think it's always important for teachers to be able to trust you as a leader, and you as a leader are able to build that trust with teachers. It's not always easy. I'm learning that now as an instructional coach. Even though I'm not like the principal, I can still see that same kind of anxiety that they build up when I step into the classroom and after assure them, like, listen, this is just a non-evaluative observation. I'm just here to just watch. And once we have our meeting, then we can just have a conversation about your practice and everything else. But it's not a gotcha moment. It's like, no, like, I really want to just see what's going on, Because if I don't see it, I can't give you the feedback that you need to get better. So I
Right.
got to see you in action.
Hmm.
So you're doing all this dope stuff in your school, and I'm just listening to your journey. And one day I make a rare stop on Facebook. I don't even go on Facebook like that. And then I see your post. You popping the bubbly and everything. You're just like excited about this new position or just new page of your journey, which I want you to talk about. So you're
Hmm.
now a transformational principal within your district, correct?
Yes. So what
So yeah, talk to us about that.
there's like standard, professional, transformational, distinguished. And so we have to do a portfolio that demonstrates our impact on the school. So that means the domains are, student achievement, parental and family, engagement and involvement, culture and climate. So those are some of the domains that I had to demonstrate proficiency. So I have to have a certain rating, rate, and I'm rated by my supervisor as well as my teachers. And so I have to have a certain level of rating there. And then I had to do this huge portfolio. Like those file bins. I wish I had one like handy, I would grab it. But those big file bins, like the totes, I have two of those full of documentation
Mm.
from all the different things that I've done in the building, and not just like the things that you all see on social media, but like the hard work of planning and taking a deep dive with standards and then utilizing those standards for planning and unit planning and spiral planning and all the different things that we do in terms of instruction, to improve instruction and to improve learning outcomes. So basically what that means is that I've been able to impact my school in a positive manner in those domains. So and then what that means for me is that now I'll be considered like a principal mentor. I will also be charged with participating in the hiring process for future assistant principals and principals within my district.
And so there's the part, and I feel like it's a recurring theme with you.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't even trying to do this. So I had to basically tell you about this transformational principal program. So once again, we're like, oh, me? Nah, I'm
Uh,
good. I'm good. You know this is a recurring theme with you.
it is. It is. People tell me, yeah, like like you should do this. I'm like, no, I shouldn't. But one thing I do stand firm on: I'm not pursuing a doctorate. I am not.
You sure about that?
I'm positive. My loans are paid off. They got forgiven last year of 2022 on December 16th. I ain't going back.
Oh, I almost did it. I actually applied for an EDD
Mm-hmm.
program at Northeastern University in
Uh-huh.
Boston. And right after I got that acceptance letter,
Mm-hmm.
I felt something in me. There was something in me that was saying, this isn't it right here. You're not ready.
Mm-hmm.
Because now, at this point, I'm 10 or 11 years removed from my master's program at Temple.
Mm-hmm.
And now I got a wife and a son at this
Right.
point. I'm comfortable. Do I
Uh-huh.
really want to get back into a high stress environment where I'm gonna have to do research and do lit reviews and a whole bunch of reading and writing? Do I want to do that? I'm like, nah, I don't got that stamina right now. I had to be honest with myself.
Yeah. And
I
that's
had to
what
be
it
honest.
takes. It takes that, and it takes also. I'm like, my job. I'm already, doing 60, 70 hour weeks. When I'm going to have time for that?
Mm,
You know what I mean? Like my job is already a lot. So it's like, it doesn't even make sense for me to try to pursue that. Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. And honestly, I don't have a desire to teach in higher ed, full time. So, it just doesn't make any sense for me in terms of anything that I would pursue
mm.
to get a doctorate.
Would you consider adjuncting?
I would consider that. I would. I would consider to do like adjunct, like, but I wouldn't want to do like higher ed full time. Because I think that's just that's a different beast in itself. But yeah, I wouldn't mind doing being an adjunct professor. I think that would actually be pretty cool. But yeah, I wouldn't mind doing that at all.
Yeah, I think with the way the academia world is, it doesn't align with your disposition, as far as
Mm-hmm.
who you are. I feel
Oh
like
yeah.
there'll be a lot of resistance and pushback on a lot of politics.
I would be shaking stuff up. Now I would be in what?
Mhm.
I would be in somebody's office talking about how this doesn't make sense. But I mean, I would love though to go back to, and like any EDU programming and just give feedback. Like, from the lens of an administrator, like these are the skills that we have to start teaching, not just our teachers, but just even our leaders. Like it blew somebody's mind yesterday. I was on a friend's live on TikTok, and I was talking about how in my master's program, I never had a course on how to manage, on just management, like managing people. Not one. I had courses on pedagogy, law, EDU law, special ed law, all of that. But I didn't have anything on management. And so the one big hole I think that there is with a lot of master's programs, doctorate programs, especially if they're pursuing leadership or ad leadership, is that there's an assumption that if you can manage kids, you can manage adults, which doesn't really make any sense.
Nope.
Because adults are not kids, so it's just really different. Adult learning is different because now you have to teach adults, essentially, not just kids. You have to teach people, and you have to manage people, and then not just your staff, you have to manage parents. There are whole other people that you have to manage, and in some cases you have to parent them too, because they're young and they don't know any better. So yeah, so just to give that feedback, and then to talk about how to like make programs better, so we're really preparing people for the job.
Wow. Yeah. See, this is why you're better than me. Um, nah. Yeah, principal life, nope, not for me. Not for me. But before we wrap up, I do want to
Mhm.
ask this question, a fun one,
Okay.
because you're doing these 60 and 70-hour weeks as a
Yeah.
principal. You have to have some outlets
Uh-huh.
to release some of that stress. So I know for you, you've always been into music. That I know.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really intrigued to know about, DJing, like how
Mm-hmm.
you venture into that. So there's Principal Mo, and then you got DJ Ash Boogie.
Yeah.
I need to know comparison between those two alter egos, if you will. How would you compare those two?
So I mean, I feel like we're like there's no alter ego between both of them. It's just one and the same. Like I've always loved music, like you said, and I always would like talk. You remember me probably listening, like earbuds always in, listening to everything,
All the time.
everything, all the time. So yeah, but how I got into DJing, my husband actually signed me up for a class. I always wanted to learn how to DJ since I was in college. I was always enamored by DJ and always intrigued with producers, because I always was intrigued with how music was made, and like their styles and how you can hear their style and how you knew who made it, who produced it, just based off of the style and the type of sound they use. And so my husband signed me up for a class during the pandemic because I was in the house going stir crazy. He was like, "You need to find something. Here, go to this class." I went to the first class. After I took the first class, I bought all my equipment. I had bought speakers, I bought a controller, I got a computer off a truck, and I got into a record pool. And so because it was the pandemic, my hours were 40-hour weeks, right? I wasn't, I was truly in the building, from bell to bell, and then I could go home. So when I was home, and still wasn't going anywhere. So when I was home, I was just practicing. And so because I loved music so much, and I have this vast range of knowledge of different genres of music, I didn't have to learn music. I just had to learn how to use the equipment to play it. So yeah, and I just it's something that I really enjoy doing. Like right now, I'll really only do it for family and friends. Like, so if they ask me to do it, or if they, they need somebody. So like, like I'll DJ like my dad's birthday party or my aunt's birthday party or something like that. But, I'm not like taking all these inquiries to do it. It's really something, it's a hobby. It's something I enjoy. And it's something that my boys enjoy too. They like doing it. We just did our talent show at school, and it was a hip hop talent show. And so a part of hip hop's DJing. So we had a DJ portion, and I was actually able to teach one of our students too how to do it. So we all, had a turn, and the parents are like, "Wow, that's really cool. The kids know how to do it too." And I'm like, "Yep, I said anybody can learn how to do it. It's as long as you love music and you know music, you can do it."
That's dope. That's dope.
Yeah.
All right, well, Ashley, thank you. We about to wrap up here, but of course, this is the question that I always ask my guests,
Okay.
and it's how do you stay true to the teacher in you, even as a principal?
Never stop learning. I saw a quote about it says, the fall of educators of the 21st century are people who are not willing to learn, unlearn, or relearn something. So
Very
constantly evolving. Like, so you have to be willing to unlearn. You have to be willing to relearn things and learn them. So I think that's one thing that I'm constantly doing, is I'm constantly learning different things, and then kind of teaching people the different things that I learn and the different skills that I pick up.
Nice. Well, Ashley, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a dope conversation. Listen, I'm just proud of everything you've been able to accomplish. It's been dope to just see a journey from when we were just youngins to where we are now.
Same. I'm proud of you too, because I mean, you've built this entire platform. Like, it's like you, Shauna B, because Shauna's also, a fellow Al.
Yeah, Sean's the homie.
Yeah, so like, you guys, y'all really doing it for, the culture. You're speaking at all these events and all these conferences, and representing for, Black male representation in education, which is a big thing. And it's definitely needed. So thank you for all that you do. And it's just really been cool to just see how we've all grown. But it's really is like, just amazing, like all the things that you've been doing. And I'm like, oh wow, Kwame famous. I'm like, he's famous. Go ahead, Kwame.
I know. I look at my pockets; they don't feel like it, but that's another story. But I receive the affirmations nonetheless. I receive them. Yes. So yeah, Ashley, let people know how they can connect with you. I know you're not really on social media like that, but you do got SoundCloud. Let them know how they can.
I am on social media like that. So the thing is that I'm on TikTok more than anything. But
there you go.
Yeah, I'm on Principal. My handle is Principal_Mo, and that's the same thing on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok.
All right, y'all heard it. Principal Mo across all platforms. Yes, and also catch her on SoundCloud. DJ Ash Boogie.
DJ Ash Boogie. That's my
Listen to some of
SoundCloud.
the mixes. Yeah, listen to the mix.
Oh, and you know what? I need to talk to you later, because I need some like international music.
All right, I could think of some stuff. Yeah. I got some stuff for you, like Afro beats, because that's mostly what I'm listening to since I'm on the motherlands. A lot of Afro beats.
Yes, Afro beats, I'm a piano, all of it. I love it.
All right, cool. I got you. All right, Ashley. So it is almost 10 on my end, so my day is about to come to an end. But this has been a great way to end it. So thank you again, and we're gonna talk soon.
All right, thank you. Have a great night.
All right, take care. All right, y'all. So we about to wrap up another episode of IDTALK4ED Live. And as always, wish you all good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are in the world. And we're going to do this again another time. Peace out, people.